I'm here today, and thanks a lot, to talk about this building data and using building data in a way to improve performance and efficiency. And I guess that introduction was good because, you know, I've actually worked on this a pretty good portion of my career, this being making measured performance a central element of a climate solution, basically. And it's really a central element of the Energy Star program. And I'm happy to share some of my perspectives on data based on that. And I'm also was asked to distill this into 5 steps, which I did. But I'm going to tell you right now that I'm saving those 5 steps to the end. So sorry, I'm going to go through a little bit of the perspective that I learned about data. And then the other thing that I want to say is, unfortunately, at this stage of the day on the agenda, I don't think I'm going to be saying too many things that are brand new that you haven't already heard today. But since we've talked about adages and things like that, I feel like the one that says, and I don't know what, it's not exact, but you need to hear something 3 times to believe it. Well, maybe that's going to be my role today, is you're going to need to hear these things several times to know at least that this is the right track to go down. And so we're hearing a lot, data, data, data. It's really quite a mantra. You can't manage what you can't measure is also something that was talked about today. And that adage is interesting as it is now being talked about so much. When we first started out with Energy Star early, that wasn't really something in the energy management field that people were talking about a lot. And one of the things that we in the early Energy Star partners wanted to do is kind of move the whole idea of trying to manage energy and move it to a management practice, not just really from a kind of solely project-based focus. And in order to do that, you had to quantify and manage and track things. And what better than looking at your energy data? And the most interesting part of it was we met so many energy managers, that was their title, that never saw an energy bill, didn't actually really know how much energy the buildings that they were managing or consuming. And so a lot of the effort was looked at trying to quantify what you would manage, and not just in this sense data for data's sake. It was really important that we think about the outcome. The outcomes we were looking for are financial health for the organization and environmental health for our planet. And really it's a means of trying to take that data and turn it into an outcome. So of course, we all know this. I'm just kind of restating that it's really important to use data and use it to lead to action. And so I feel like the term data is kind of used as the catch-all phrase. And often people mean it to say data, but really when you think about it, there's data, there's information, there's knowledge, there's value. And we use the term data in a way that I think kind of oversimplifies. I mean, in some way, we're using the wrong term, because when you look at the distinctions between the 3, they're really not interchangeable. And so when you think of data as a set of specific objective facts or observations, it really isn't until we do something with it that we endow it with relevance and purpose, that we can actually turn it into information and then take that information and synthesize it and contextualize it in a way that will give someone knowledge to take action. And the action really is, from our standpoint, is improving financial health and improving the environmental health. That's why EPA has been involved with this. But then you say, okay, I'm taking this data and I'm making it into information, but that underlying data really needs to be aligned to the audience. We need to match it to a desired outcome. And when we think, like, I think we think about energy management, mostly we're thinking about the energy manager, the building manager, maybe a sustainability person, someone who, you know, probably needs a lot of the data and can make a lot of decisions with it, sometimes day-to-day decisions. But in this world, there's many audiences and they're very diverse, and we need to actually align the data to match what their interests are and to really drive the action that they can control. And so that's why I think there's a lot of this information matching using this underlying data and to make it relevant to these various people. So when you think about it, you have investors, you have CFOs and CEOs, and really you want them to be actually approving investments, building a staff and a team, establishing a corporate-wide energy management policy. And I think we all understand that. The audience that I think we like to focus on are all the other people, because don't forget, also, we have customers and we have the occupants of the building, and they may be students, they could be employees. They all can play a role, and giving them information so that they can take action is almost just as important. Okay, so that is not an energy dashboard, sorry to say, but I did want to use it as an example to talk a little bit about the power of collecting data and then using it to drive action and information. So does anyone have one of these on their wrist? Mine broke, and so I want to say that I use it, but I haven't used my Fitbit in a while. But this is a Fitbit. That's the dashboard for the Fitbit. And the interesting thing is I looked this up, that these personal fitness devices, there are others besides Fitbit, but it's become a pretty big business. And I just looked up from the International Data Corporation that there are 78.1 million units that were shipped in 2015. And that was up 170% from the prior year. So somehow these fitness trackers, these little things that people like to wear, have become kind of a pretty big business and have captured people's attention. And I feel like there's a couple of reasons why people like these things. So initially, I think people want to, at their heart, be fit and improve their health. And oftentimes, you know, it's way easier not to do that, to stay on the couch and not move. And so people need an easy way to actually move themselves into action. And I think that these trackers are striving to make fitness fun and easy. And easy meaning like it's taking a very easy conceptual thing. You can count steps, right? I mean, well, they can. Someone's figured out how to do it. I sometimes question whether it's accurate, but okay. But you can actually count steps, and all they're trying to get people to think of that is steps is equal to movement, and that's equal to good. And if you do more of it, that's good. And so with this little unit, they can collect data. And then they load this data, well, into that little dashboard. And it starts to give you information. Information like, you know, all sorts of information. Like, does anybody know, has anyone heard what basically people say how many steps you should walk a day? Does anyone know that number? Has anyone heard that? 10,000. Why do we know that you should walk 10,000 steps a day? It's become a benchmark almost. But you know, once you load your information up into this, you'll find out that 10,000 is a really good benchmark. It's probably good to get you going, but you are not going to be among the best in the group. But it's a benchmark. It sets goals for you. It actually, if anyone has one, you know, it gets kind of mad at you. It like zings you if you haven't moved enough during the day. But more importantly, it provides kind of like little motivations. It gives you little incentives, rewards, little emails. But as much as anything, it tries to create a community, and it tries to make you accountable by sharing that information. In this case, you're probably sharing it among friends and family and whatnot. But that is a way to motivate people. And people also like to wear it because it's like a symbol. You walk around, I don't know, is anyone wearing one? I think I noticed one today. Yeah, and people say, oh, that person is interested in fitness and improvement. The other thing about it is that it often moves people beyond the basic if they make a habit of it. And what they're basically trying to do is get you to make a habit of moving. And once you start moving, you know what? You're like, oh, I feel better. What if I bought more equipment? What if I got a gym membership? Maybe I should get a personal trainer. All of a sudden, they're interested in more data. Imagine if you just came to the person laying on the couch and you said to them, I want to track all your heart rates, and we're going to sign you up for the gym membership. You're going to be like, oh, that seems like really hard to do. But after you make a habit of it, you are seeking out this kind of information. And I believe that this is sort of similar to energy management. You might not believe it, but I feel like there's some of the same elements of what the personal fitness tracking industry has done is similar to what we want to do in energy management, because at the heart of things, businesses, of course, are people, and people want to both improve the financial health of their organization that they work for, and they want to improve the environment or whatever. But I think fundamentally, people would like to know that they're helping things. But often it's hard to get started, and once you're started, you need to have something to keep you tracking along the way. And with energy management, you just need easy, simple ways of measurement. Utility bills, I'll get to why it's not always easy, but you would think utility bills should be one of the easiest ways to get going. People want goals and benchmarks. 10,000 steps. Most people knew 10,000 steps is good. If you collected up your energy bill data and you looked at the number that came out of it, might you know whether that was good or bad? Maybe not, because you don't have a lot of context around that. You need more context. Making information transparent and shareable is also a similar thing. Once you are begun to be held accountable, people can see it. It both drives more ability to improve, but it also keeps you, it could keep you, interested and paying attention. And public symbols is no different. Businesses want to be rewarded and to see something pretty public when they're doing good. And I think if you make a habit of this, we can move people beyond the basics, beyond tracking, beyond some improvement, and get into real investments and whatnot. So I just wanted to bring us around to that kind of analogy, because I think it helps us understand how you can take information and make it a little more powerful and valuable. And I'd like to throw this kind of analogy out. I kind of think of the EPA's Energy Star program as a Fitbit of energy management. And I say that because, at the heart of the Energy Star program is trying to drive measurement and accountability and using the energy bills. And then providing some of these basics, a simple way to translate energy data into something that many audiences can understand. We do it through scores or greenhouse gas emissions, public recognition, and a platform for creating a community. And that's what I think can encourage people to improve. It's the community and the ability to bring these practices together. So like, for instance, portfolio manager, people talked about that today. It's really nice to see. This is a community of people who are all about measurement and energy data, and the ability for everyone to share the information all along adds value along the way. Bits and pieces of the puzzle that will help move people to action. So something like Portfolio Manager is available to basically translate basic information into scores or greenhouse gas emissions, a way to align energy data with business performance and environmental performance. That's the way I like to think about it. And then there's the access and verification. And the funny thing about a tool like this is that it just needs a kind of a minimal amount of data, and even that is hard, right? It needs energy data, but as we're all in this room together, we're all trying to figure out how to make it more easy. I was struck by someone on the panel before said, we're spending 70% of our effort and resources getting the information, collecting it, not using it. And while this doesn't solve the collection part, I think we know that we really need to be figuring out the collection and using it. Oh, I didn't know that was... and that's why I think our partnership with the 200 plus or so energy service providers, Urginet being an important one. But look, I mean, half these people are basically here, there's some portion of them. And to us, we don't see Energy Stars being the part that's going to bring all the solutions. These are the people who have the solutions, right? We're just trying to prime the market, provide extra value and context to give that motivation. And these are the folks that can help actually the hard part of getting the data and cleaning the data and making it available so we can actually get going on the task at hand. In terms of the public recognition, the ability to be recognized and kind of like wearing your Fitbit on your wrist, we like to see Energy Stars being that kind of public awareness ability for you to, if you're walking down a street in Atlanta, because there's a lot of Energy Star certified buildings in Atlanta, if you see that, you might not know exactly what that is, but because the consumer awareness rate is so high and people know Energy Stars related to appliances and computers and things they see in their everyday life, and they have a sense that's good, they're seeing, oh, that's good, and it's like a badge of success. The other thing is that a network, and there are more than 6,000 organizations that are committed. They're Energy Star partners. What they're committing to is organization-wide continuous energy management improvement. And what you'll see is there's like this whole variety of organizations, big and small, public, private. They all can work together and learn from each other in a way to use this data to improve their own financial health and the environment. And then I wanted to take a minute and show a little bit, you know, we talk about energy and energy data and buildings and the energy that buildings use, but it's really the people. Like a building wouldn't use energy if people weren't in there. Have you ever heard like designers and people say, oh, I designed this really great building, it's really efficient, but then the people got in there and then they messed everything up. And you're like, well, the building is for the people. And so really what we're trying to do is get the building and the people to work together to be good performance. And what I wanted to use the Fitbit analogy again is that if it's about people and that there's all sorts of people at all different phases, this is a Fitbit group right here. This is my family, my extended family. And 5 of them in this group have joined a Fitbit challenge. They all have Fitbits. I'm not in this, but they are. And they range from my father, who's in his 80s, to 2 of my sisters who are in their 40s, and my daughter and my nephew who are in their 20s. And believe it or not, they all are in this challenge group. And it's always very fascinating when I have been on the phone with my daughter, and she's like, Mom, I gotta go. I need to get more steps in because Grandpa's beating me today. And it's not that Grandpa, you know, well, can probably walk 30,000 steps, but it's where you're at, people can be challenged and motivated by themselves. Even 20-year-olds and 80-year-olds find that that's motivating to move forward. And I think that what we're trying to do with the Energy Star program is provide a context like that, make energy management fun. And our competitions, the Battle of the Buildings, is designed to get people engaged. And this isn't really designed for the facility managers who are not going to learn from this challenge how to, you know, balance their HVAC system. That's not the point. The point of this is to engage all the people in the building because they play a role. They can shut things off. They want to know that they're doing a good thing. And no matter where you're at, you can engage and translate information to people who want to feel like they're doing a good thing and can do a good thing. So I did promise that I would tell you 5 things. And so I'm at the end, and I wanted to tell you 5 things. But really, what I think that I've done, these 5 steps, which aren't the only 5 steps or the ones in order, are basically best practices distilled from many of our Energy Star partners. And in fact, what you've heard is this over and over again today from all the panelists and many of the companies and all of you. So I'm probably preaching to the choir here. But I think that my main message is how important it is to turn data into information and action. And it does really take a network of people working together. And I think this room and all of the partners, we're all seemingly partners with each other, and we all have a role that complements each other to really lead to action. And from EPA standpoint, that action, we hope, will be Gene being able to retire soon, saying we've done something to help the climate. But you know, in no kind of a particular order. What I'm afraid of is that now that data has become quite a mantra, and I think we heard, what was the other thing we heard from, I was at the session that was right before mine, and I heard something like in the last 2 years, we've collected more, what was that statistic, more data than ever or something? 90% of the data has been, I guess, collected, but what are we doing with all this data? Well, I know there are a lot of people behind the scenes doing a lot of things with my data. They know everything I'm doing, I guess. But what I don't want to have happen is in the energy world that too much data and this reliance, I mean, big data and databases of data and things like that could lead not to action, but to data paralysis. And that's not, I think, what we all want. And so it's important to keep our attention to who's the audience, how are we taking data and turning it into information that they themselves can act upon. And so here I just listed, I think, in kind of a summary, a couple of things that we've heard that do lead to best practices and the ability to kind of move data to action. And that is looking at gaining a portfolio perspective. I think we really want to do that because we want to guide the investments to the best parts. Like probably we want to guide the investments to lower performing facilities, or at least understand and learn from the big, large ones. So that's important if you're a corporation or have a lot. I think benchmarking performance for context is very valuable, and I do want to note that I believe benchmark is a verb and not, and it's an ongoing thing. Benchmarking should happen on a continuous, it's not a one-time thing, it's not the number and then that's it. I think we look for benchmarks a lot, and we should use that to guide our actions. Sharing your performance information, whether it's in, you know, now there's a lot of mandatory disclosure going on, but there's a lot of ability to share information within your organization, among your partners, in ways that can actually bring you to a new platform. Communicating your accomplishments to the community. I can't say enough about that. It doesn't have to be your energy bills that you're giving to your community, but translating that, maybe it's the Energy Star, maybe it's some other accomplishment you've made. We need to be communicating. And community is broad. It's your investors, it's your customers, it's the people in your community. And then ultimately we're striving for culture change, not these one-time projects, improvements, but you know, a way to take this data and institutionalize it, meaning change, it meaning action. And so in any case, I think that's all I had for my prepared remarks. I'm sure you won't have any questions for me because we've heard all this before. But if there are any questions, please feel free to ask them. Do we have time?
We've got time.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Energy Star is great, and I think there's a huge gap. I mean, I go out to do an energy audit, and I'll go out, and this is a lot of federal buildings. You have a meter, yeah. Where is it? Oh, I don't know, Bob. Where is that meter? Somebody reading it? Oh, I think Joe reads about every 2 weeks. Or a lot of federal buildings and a lot of private buildings, there's one meter that serves multiple buildings. They got chiller plants and hot water plants. It's getting the data to be information is, I think, a lot harder than DOE and maybe EPA thought. Even getting the meters installed, or some people's doing sub-meters. The one building I went out to, yeah, we got a sub-meter in. I go look at it, the numbers don't look right. Okay, does this serve this chiller plant? No, it doesn't serve the chiller plant. Well, so it's not picking up the whole building. Yeah, it's picking up the whole building, but it doesn't serve the chiller plant. So you're trying to get people that have jobs to try to get this data. So I think there's a huge gap in getting this information from data to information, getting the meters installed right, letting the people do it, see the forest, see what they're trying to get to, as opposed to just we put in a meter. What does it do? We don't know. We just told to put it in. So I think it's good to see the private industry starting to step in. Yeah. I mean, it's almost like, it may not sound simple to you, but it's almost like telling somebody you need to get a meter in a complicated building that has chill water and may have panels in one building that serve another building. It's almost like telling them to go and do surgery. You need somebody that understands it. Is the federal government doing anything to get to that side of getting the information, so the data, so it's information, and not just having a platform to, portfolio manager assumes that it's good information.
Yes,
but it's
I
not
think that's the point. I think there are ways to turn the data into information, and I do want to say I have worked on it. Like, how hard could it be, right? That was the question. All you needed was your energy bills. Of course, they don't match the meters. There's more meters. Where do you get them? They're in paper. Joe has them out in another place. Oh, just get it from the utility. Oh, no, you can't. And so I feel like that is the number one important issue. And I think that, yes, we EPA can't solve it, but what I like to see is that we are kind of working together in a way, and this is a good forum to demonstrate that, because we have Urginet trying to, however and whatever means they scraping and get the data in, and then other service providers that actually take it, help do another set of cleaning, make it more relevant. They can exchange electronically data and pull just certain things out of Portfolio Manager to add value. Should it be easier than that? Yeah, I mean, we're sending people to Mars, and yet we can't get energy billing data in a form that it shouldn't be rocket science. But, for instance, we even have a forum right now, access to energy data, utility data, whether it's, tenants and owners in one building can't actually exchange the information to get the whole building. This is not like it technically should not be a difficult thing to overcome, but I do feel like there's a lot of attention to it, and there's a lot of effort to try and get access to the data.
Yes. Are you able to, and do you provide benchmarking information to the private sector by, building, square foot, industry sector, that sort of thing, through Portfolio Manager?
We have for certain building types. I kind of glossed over all that detail. For certain building types, we have developed based on the data that's available nationwide on certain building types. We've created a 1 to 100 score for offices and K through 12 schools and retail, warehouse. There's a list of like 10 or 12, it depends on how you count up all the different space types, where we basically provide a benchmark that's how do you compare to similar buildings after you tell us what the building is used to do. And that you'll get a 1 to 100 score on, and anything that's 75 or higher can earn the Energy Star. For those that we don't have enough data to create that kind of normalized benchmark, we do provide basic, what the average is that we can cull from the national data. So we do try to provide basic whole building level guides to kind of tell you, are you among the best, among the worst, in the middle, and it gives you an indication for how much room you might have for improvement. Although even those in the best have room for improvement. Okay. Well, great. I appreciate all the partnership and, oh, was someone?
So I know we spoke a little bit earlier, but
Yeah.
I was interested to know more about the new waste offering
Right.
and any other areas where you think Energy Star in the future could grow and continue to help buildings and people who work and live within those buildings continue to be more sustainable.
Great. Thank you for that question, because again, I've glossed over some of the details. But, as I said, as people start making a habit of things, then they're looking for more. And one of the things that Energy Star has been a good platform for is as organizations have gotten their energy use under control, they're looking at other elements of sustainability in the building. Portfolio Manager also tracks water usage, and we just added waste tracking in August into Portfolio Manager. And in that sense, that was partly driven by many of the, actually the real estate industry, who has been, their investors. I think you've heard all the alphabet soup, so you heard, I think, the term GRESB, that's the Global Real Estate Sustainability Benchmark, and many real estate investors are asking for transparent sustainability information about the performance of those properties that they're investing in. And so in that context, they're asking for energy, water, waste data, and many of these real estate companies who worked with Energy Star and Portfolio Manager would like it to have come from one platform. Not that we do the analysis, but, and so that's why we move forward to try and make that add waste tracking. I think, though, when you do that, one of the things that we think, we talked about how hard it is with energy data. It's not consistent. It's not. It's hard to get when you get it from the utility, as we heard that Urginet does. Even every other month, they're trying to there's something new about how the data comes in that needs some more cleansing. In other areas like waste, I think energy looks great. And I think that as we move forward with data and transparency, one of the benefits is going to be a little bit more standardization. And that's what I would say would be a great outcome of all of this effort. So for us and with Energy Star, we like to stay at the level of providing a platform that's pretty easy access to folks, and some broad benchmarks, the ability to exchange information around, and the public recognition that we're good at, and the connection with the people, whether they're up and down your chain. But the diagnostics and the ability to really help people with specifics for improvement is where the industry comes in. I mean, really, there is so much expertise out there. All of these, all of the companies plus more have a lot of the expertise. That's not the area that we're looking to sort of be involved in.